Hello and welcome to the Buy, Sell, Hold Spotlight presented by Sports Car Market Magazine. I'm Darren Roberge. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Also, be sure to join in the conversation and share your thoughts by leaving us a comment below. Our guest today is Tim Quocksister. He is the president of Silver Arrow Cars. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you.
For those who may not be familiar with you, why don't you introduce yourself and give a little bit of personal background?
So we're a car dealer based in Victoria, BC, Canada, but a vast majority of our business is in the U.S. 70% of our business is actually conducted with U.S. purchasers, and we concentrate mostly on Mercedes-Benz 300 SLs, Gullwings and Roadsters from 1954 to 1964. And we do a lot of air-cooled Porsches and lots of Ferraris, and then some special interest cars from, Mercedes G63 6x6 we have in stock right now. So we've always got something goofy. And I would say our inventory is always based around what nobody else has rather than, what everybody else is selling at any given time. So, but we definitely concentrate on vintage as the primary focus of our business, and go all the way up to the modern cars that we keep in our showroom in Victoria, BC, but our US-based business is mostly in the collector demographic.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff you have on the website for sure. A lot of rare models that you don't see places, and the range is wide from earlier stuff all the way on up. So where did Silver Arrow Cars originally start? What was kind of the idea, the trajectory? How did you get into opening this business in the first place?
Great question. Young, dumb, thought I knew everything. And so I started in the car business in 1997 with our local Mercedes-Benz dealership. I'm born in 79. So I was the ripe old age of 18, started in Mercedes-Benz, washing cars, moved up quickly into the sales department, and then on into sales manager and on to general sales manager at one point. But in 2001, I had been buying and selling cars in Canada and selling them in the US, and thought I knew everything. So June of 01, I decided I'm going to go out on my own. I know everything. What do I need this dealership for? I'll sell cars in the US, and, realized that borders can close in September of 01. So I happen to be in New York City right now. So it's a very real thing to be saying at this moment, because, this city shut down the entire idea of shipping a car from Canada to the US. So in June of 01, I started the business. In September of 01, I got a realization that borders matter and they can close and currencies can affect your business. So that's when we started, and been doing it ever since 2001. So we're 22 years into it now as Silver Arrow Cars. And, in the last, let's say 10 years, we primarily focused on the stuff that we're doing now. Previously, we were trying to be the competition. When I started it was trying to be the competition to the local dealers buying the Porsches and Range Rovers and all that kind of stuff, being the lowest cost provider, but realizing that depreciating inventory wasn't the best focus of business. So that's when we moved into the collector space.
Yeah, that makes sense. Appreciating assets are always the way to go for sure. So you mentioned borders. What are some other interesting advantages and disadvantages of being headquartered in Canada?
Some advantages are a vast majority of our restoration work that we do on 300 SLs. We use a company in Canada called Coachworks Restoration, which used to be headed by Rudy Konachek, who I certainly accredit my affection for the 300 SL. Rudy is very well known in the collector car world as a 300 SL restorer. So he definitely piqued my interest when I was at Mercedes-Benz. I can remember years and years ago visiting his shop and seeing all these 300 SLs there and thinking, wow, this is amazing. And then in 2006, I bought my first 300 SL that they did the work on. And then since then, went on to when Rudy retired 6 or 7 years ago, his same group of guys started Coachworks Restoration, which is a shop that does about the majority of our 300 SL work now. They're a great shop, seasoned guys. And, you asked, the first question was, what is the advantage? The advantage is we're paying those guys in Canadian dollars. So, every $100 bill that we spend US goes $1.35 today on a restoration that we're doing there, opposed to doing in the US. So that's a huge advantage. The other advantage is the restoration shop is a driver away from our facility, so we can visit there 2-3 times a day. We're always the squeaky wheel. 3 times a day I'm there. And, I know if the restoration shop watches it, they'll definitely attest to the fact that we are the squeaky wheel. And, we're lucky. The guys treat us great, and they're close by. So we get to see the cars on a daily basis and just check on progress and make, in collector car restoration, no 2 cars are the same, and no problem is one that you've seen twice. Usually it's always something new and something that's unforeseen. And so when you're there watching work being done on a daily basis, it's great to just be there to see, why does this need to be changed, or should we approve this work? So there's a huge advantage to having the restoration shop there, is where we're present daily and get to be a part of each job on a daily basis.
Well, you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. There's no question about that. And you guys actually surround yourself with a lot of people in a lot of places, because not only do you have the Canadian location, but you also have multiple locations scattered throughout the US as well. Why don't you kind of list those off, and how, what process did it take to get to the point where you could do that? And what are the advantages of having these little satellite locations throughout the country?
So what we found is, with the amount of business that we're doing in the US, that it made sense to formalize locations that we can store the cars, prepare them for sale. There's a lot of cars that don't need to come back to Canada to be sold. We have facilities in Costa Mesa and Newport Beach that we use for service work and detailing and whatnot. By a landslide, the best detailer I've ever seen, Jacob Merrick at IM Detailing. There's his plug. He's amazing. He's in Newport Beach. And, I remember I sent my first Rolls-Royce Corniche to him that had 9,000 original miles, got his first bill, and couldn't believe that that's what a detail costs. But, since then I've probably sent him 100 cars, and he's just amazing. So the idea of sending a car down there, having the work done, storing it there, and selling it from that location made a lot of sense for us. So we use Beverly Hills, we have storage, and then Newport Beach and in Costa Mesa, we do service and repair. Scottsdale, we have storage, and then we have an airplane hangar in Blaine, Washington, which is the closest border to our facility. So when a car is finished and ready for sale in our Victoria location, it goes right to our Blaine warehouse, and then is ready to be picked up. Reliable Carriers is there on a weekly basis, and they pick up and drop off all our cars from the Blaine warehouse if they were previously in Canada. So a lot of our cars remain on US titles. We have a customs bond, so the car can come into Canada on a bond. It remains on its US title, gets its work done, and then comes back to the US. So there's no delay or need to retitle a car or pay duty or whatnot. So for us being a Canadian, most of our US buyers don't want to go through the hassle of dealing with borders and duty and inspections and all that kind of stuff. So we just take that task on and do it all for them.
Yeah, certainly makes sense. So you mentioned your affection for the Mercedes 300 SL. At this point, you guys have sold quite a few of them, both through your shop and Bring a Trailer. We'll kind of touch on that a little bit later. But how many to this date have you sold?
The last count, I think, was just over 60 different 300 SLs, both Gullwings and Roadsters. In those, there's 4 of the 29 alloy-bodied 300 SL Gullwings. So 4 of the 29 we've sold. 1 we've sold twice. We have sold 4 of the 27 Reg Wheel Roadsters. So yeah, we concentrate on them, a lot. We love driving them. We love using them. We love how iconic they are. And, I think they're a car that are here to stay for a long time. They don't have a shelf life that I think matures anytime soon.
And you've got some good ones currently on offer right now, too. We can touch on a couple of those. 1956 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing. You also have a 55 300 SL Gullwing. Why don't you kind of break down those cars and tell us about them and what's different about them and who they would appeal to?
So the 300 SLs in general, we concentrate on everything from, a freshly restored car that we've gone through the 2-year process, nut and bolt, doing complete body off, every piece of mechanical equipment, cosmetic, everything is done to perfection. And that appeals to one buyer. But there's also a lot of people out there that say, I don't want a perfect car that I have to worry about getting a chip, a ding, a dent, a scrape, a scratch. And I just want to have a car that I can use. So often we'll buy a car that we know has great bones. It's original motor, original chassis, original body, original axles, original rear end, original transmission. So all of those on a 300 SL you can check. And then we get the build sheets from the Mercedes-Benz Classic Center, who we have a great relationship with, and ensure that all of those match. And if they do, then we think it's a great car to bring up to what we would say a driver quality car that's well sorted mechanically. So that's a much different buyer than somebody looking for that perfect fresh out of restoration example. Right now we have a Gullwing that I don't think is listed on our website that, it was born white. It's currently silver, but it has its completely original interior, and we just did all the mechanicals on it. So that's a great car for somebody to go on the Colorado brand or, something like that, where they can drive the car. They know mechanically it's sound and it's going to get them there, but it's, it can take a rock to the front end and you're not going to change its value or, cause damage. So, there's a wide range of what people are looking for. And it does go from that barn find that's mechanically sound all the way up to that, piece of jewelry that's in the collection that'll never get driven. And, no two buyers, want the exact same car. There's certain colors that appeal to people. One of the cars that we have right now, I don't know if you looked at our website, but we have a light blue metallic with a white interior with blue piping. And that car is the only one made that color. And that's how it left the factory. It was born with a white interior with blue piping, and there was not two made that way. So that's something that's appealing. So many of the Gullwings were, silver, white, black, red, and then you have those unique colors. And we do find people really love buying something that there isn't two of, which we have a Roadster right now that funny enough, we just found out there was only two made in this specific blue color. Both were sold in the same dealer in Venezuela, and both went to the same owner. So we just bought that car, and when we went to the Classic Center to try and find out, what paint code it was, because we couldn't find any record of this specific code, they went back to the factory, and the factory just sent over the actual paint chip that came from the factory to the Classic Center in California. And about 15 minutes ago, they sent me the spray out card of exactly what color this is. And that'll be a fun one to restore back to its original color, because you'll never pull into a car show and see another, unless the other one from Venezuela is there, because there is only two. So
that's really exciting for sure. And another really exciting Roadster that you have currently on your website, 1962 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Roadster. It's a disc brake alloy block car, and it is sexy, sexy, sexy. It is triple black. Give us the story on that car.
So that was a great car. It was born red with a black interior. When we received it, it had its original interior. It had probably 75% original paint. It had 40,000 actual miles. It was mechanically sorted at the Mercedes Classic Center in Germany. And so mechanically, the car drove really well, but cosmetically, it was in a bit of a slump, and red has certainly fallen out of favor. I can't tell you how many cars we painted from their original red to something different. We've done a few black cars over the last couple of years, and they're just so sinister looking. So that one we chose to go black on black, black wheels, black steering wheel, black shift knob, and it's an absolute stud. It's one of the best 300 SLs I've ever driven. And the disc brake alloy block cars tend to be the most sought after, because they're the lowest production of the 300 SL. Aside from the Rudge wheel cars, they're like the only one that is super special. They only made 200, and the vast majority have had their motors replaced under warranty when they were closer to new. So that one retains its original motor and 100% original metal, 100% original drivetrain, and it's just a great car. So that would be one that somebody is going to buy at the very, very, very top of market. And, we've gone through it end to end and it's like brand new.
You mentioned color changes, and there seems to be some discrepancy between the various marques in this. Like, for example, you see a lot of color changes with Ferraris, and it doesn't seem to really particularly affect their value all that much. But on the other side, if you're talking muscle cars, it really does quite a bit. So the question is then with Mercedes-Benz and specifically the 300 SL, how critical is the original color on the car?
Coming from the guy that changes colors, I'd say it's irrelevant. Great question. I'm not the author of that answer. It's the person that's writing the final check. But my answer to that is the prettier the car, the more we get for it. And time and time again, we've painted cars back to their original color, and you look at it and, personally, we don't like painting them white or red or any common color that they were born. The prettier they are, the more they sell for. So color changes, certainly from in the days that Rudy has been doing 300 SLs, he's color changed more cars than anybody I know. And I think, if you had a beautiful color to begin with, paint it back to its original color. If you have a unique color to begin with, paint it back to its original color. But I think at any of the standard palettes, if you do a color change to what the cars were born as available, and maybe not born with, we're fine to do that. And, I've had great success in color changes from, especially from red. I bet you the last 5 cars we've done were born red, and we've changed their color and we made a profit. So I would say it works.
Yeah, the whole resale red thing seems to be a thing of the past for sure. So you guys see a lot of these cars, obviously. You guys are an expert on these. So do you have kind of a standard process that you go through when you're looking to acquire one? Like, do you have a checklist that you kind of go down and say, this is the sort of baseline stuff that we look at before we decide whether or not we want to invest in one of these?
Absolutely. The process is pretty simple. We get so many phone calls from brokers that, wouldn't know a 300 SL if it ran them over, but they know where a car is and what they can pay for it. So we do try to work with them and do our due diligence on our own. And the due diligence is fairly straightforward. On all these cars, as I was saying earlier, you have two front axles that have numbers. You have a firewall that has a stamp with your body. You have a firewall that has a chassis tag. You have a motor number that is stamped into the motor. You have a motor tag that's a tag that's affixed to the motor. You have a chassis plate, which is on the frame. You have a stamp, which is in the frame. You have a production number, which is in the frame. You have a transmission number, and you have a rear end number. And then there's a body tag also inside the footwell of the cabin of the car. Aside from that, there's some stampings, which I won't reveal where they all are because, some of them are information that I've earned over the years. My competition can earn it too. But yeah, there's all of those we check out first to see if they correlate with the data card from the factory. And the Mercedes Classic Center has all the records of each one of the 300 SLs. It's not something where anybody can just phone up and say, hey, I want a data card. You have to prove that you are the owner, or the owner is requesting the data card. So they don't want all of that information to go out. All of a sudden, a new car appears with all their correct stamps. So there's the reason why we never advertise data cards, and they don't just release them to anybody. But starting with that due diligence process, once the car checks out and it's completely numbers matching, then we'll go and inspect the car. And, often we'll take our restoration shop with us to go have a look, and, you can decipher how much work it needs and whether or not this is a car that's a good candidate for restoration, or if it's a car that's a good candidate for a driver, or, if it was restored by one of the marque specialists. There's a few that we love getting their cars. We just had a Jeltman's car, and I can't tell you how nice that was. We had some Paul Russell cars, and they're beautiful. We've had some Mercedes Classic Center restorations. So all those restorers are very well trusted, and you can almost bet if they've touched it, put their seal of approval on it once already, that your due diligence is going to be very short. So the last owner is definitely important. And then, in the Mercedes-Benz Gullwing group, basically it has every chassis, and you have all the ownership that they have a record of. There's Gullwing group registry. So we can look in there and see who any past owners are. And then nowadays with the internet, you can Google any chassis number and see if the car ever traded hands at auction. Any of the trusted auction houses are going to advertise a car properly. Certainly a RM Gutting or, Bonhams or now Broad Arrow has touched the car. You can almost bet that the information that they provided, if there was a previous auction sale.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good resources for these cars for sure, and that definitely adds to what you can do with them. So, what would you consider to be maybe kind of an insider's type of deal breaker on an SL, like something that maybe not everybody knows about, but if you see it, you immediately put your hands up and walk away? Or are these cars now valuable enough where it doesn't matter and everything is worth fixing?
Everything's worth fixing if the price is right. So this year we bought a great car that we're in the midst of a restoration. And if I send you pictures of this car, you'd be like, what? You're actually going to fix that? So great story. Well, maybe not a great story for the guy that happened to, but 1974, gentleman in Seattle owned a car, rolled over in a field, and, the roof is all bent down. The doors are bent down. The front fender's bent down, on and on and on. And it sat in his garage from 1974 until this year when we bought the car. But, great car. Aside from that, had all its original components. So the guys bring it back to the remove the body from the frame, take the doors off, take the hood off, take the trunk off, and all of a sudden, you've got a great shell of a car. And so that to many people would look like it was too far gone to start. But, our guys have done over 100, 300 SLs that work on them. They know exactly how to line up everything perfectly, and they're making the car absolutely perfect. And, you start from scratch and build the car just like it was built originally. So that car will retain 90% of its original metal. We had to replace one of the rocker panels, which is pretty common that you do on most cars anyway, because that's just a place for corrosion. We were able to salvage both doors. So those are original to the car. We were able to save the hood. That's original to the car. We were able to save the trunk lid. So the only thing that we ended up replacing was the front driver's fender, which the guys just make a brand new fender and the car will be perfect. So to answer your question, is any car too far gone? I'm sure there are cases. I haven't found one yet. And I don't know if I'm just hunting too hard or too desperate or what it is, but no, I think the cars are valuable enough now that almost any car is worth saving.
Yeah, and it's a pretty impressive stuff that these craftsmen can do with these cars for sure. So let's move on and talk Bring a Trailer. You guys sell quite a bit of stuff on Bring a Trailer. You become a pretty powerful seller there. So how does Silver Arrow approach Bring a Trailer maybe a little differently from some other sellers? And how do you think that Bring a Trailer has changed the landscape for dealers overall?
So Bring a Trailer for us, I'll be honest, the first time somebody sent me a Bring a Trailer link, I was like, what's this? And, people are shipping garbage around now. And then, I got a little further involved in watching what was going on with Bring a Trailer. In 2018, we decided to start listing cars on Bring a Trailer, and it became a successful place for us to sell. And we certainly learned the hard way how not to do some things in listings, and engaging with the peanut gallery, as they often get called, is something that you can do delicately and eloquently. You don't have to agree with them, but starting arguments on Bring a Trailer is probably the advice I would give any new seller. Don't do it. You're never going to win. There's more people that are sitting there with a keyboard wanting to prove you wrong than there are people wanting to team up with you and say, hey, they're wrong. So Bring a Trailer was a great change for us. It opened doors that were very difficult to open. The amount of people that we've had access to that are massive collectors, the ones that, the Guttings and RMs covet quite close, that they don't want to let you any closer to them than they have to. Those guys are all on Bring a Trailer. So, guys and gals, we've sold lots of cars to female buyers. We've sold lots of cars to big collectors. We've sold lots to new time or first time buyers that are new to Bring a Trailer. They just like the idea of watching. I would say most people like the commentary that you can come look at a car that you know nothing about and read the 50 comments, and all of a sudden you're a little bit more of a educated buyer. I don't want to say an expert, but I do it all the time. You look at a car that you don't know enough about, you start reading the comments, you go, oh, that's, here's some interesting stuff. So, just for us, for Bring a Trailer, our approach to it is a little different than others. Is I would say 95% of the cars that we've sold on Bring a Trailer are no reserve. So, and that's something that that a lot of people have made comments, other dealers have made comments. My philosophy is I don't know what a car is worth. You don't know what a car is worth, but the guy writing the check will tell you what it's worth. And, if I'm wrong, I'd rather find out I'm wrong right away and move on with life. And offering a car at no reserve, I think, allows any bidder to come in on the basis that they're there to buy it. They're not just bidding for the sake of bidding. And, we've now sold just over $40 million worth of cars on Bring a Trailer alone. I think we've transacted over 250 transactions on Bring a Trailer. And last time I checked, we had the highest average price per car of any other seller on Bring a Trailer. So those are things that we're very proud of. We have a great team, and I go back to Jacob with his detailing that he does on the cars in Costa Mesa, and Ted Stebbins Studios in Santa Ana. He does all of our photography. And then, every single car we send for an inspection, we send it to the dealer. If it's a modern car, have a full inspection done, and if a service is $5,000, we do the service. If it needs new tires, we need new tires. So our idea is present it the best you can and hope for the best price. And, has it paid off every single time? No, but it's very, very, very few times can I think that we actually got burned on a car and it's sold for less than what fair market value was. And I can think of plenty of times where, somebody's out there setting a new high watermark. And one that's very memorable was, I think last August, we sold a Ferrari 246 Dino GTS flares and chairs, which, many would say is the most coveted Dino that you could buy. And I remember that car had an early bid of $850,000, and everybody said, this is rigged. It's no reserve. I was getting text messages from everybody. You guys are bidding on your own car, and on and on and on. And I said, we're not bidding on our own car. Anyway, the car finished at $853,000. It went to a great guy in Portland, Oregon, added it to his collection. And we had over, I think it was, if I'm going from memory, there was over 1,000 pictures of the complete restoration project. Every single document for the restoration was done. This car had no miles on it since the restoration was completed. It was a 3-year process. It was a color change. It wasn't in its original color, but it was a beautiful color, a medium gray metallic with a tan interior, but it just checked every box. And I remember asking the buyer, did you get it for what you wanted to pay? Because it's no reserve. Or like, I don't have a dog in the fight. If you did or you didn't, I'm just curious. And he says, whatever it was, I was the buyer. It checked every single box, and it's around a year in life. I'm, 62 years old. I have a great company. I make good money, and I don't have a Dino, and I want a Dino, and I don't want any problems. And so that was the high water mark for a Dino. And then I think a month or two later, one of the auction houses, and if my memory serves me, it was RM sold one, for almost the same money within a month or two. So what went from 650 as a high watermark to 850 now became, closer to 900. And I think often it's just one guy or one buyer, I should say, goes out and makes a new high watermark for a great car, and, others will follow suit. So there's a great example of Bring a Trailer just bringing out a great buyer. He was an incredible man to deal with, and I hope he watches this because, of all the cars that we sell, there's very few times do you leave a transaction, you go, wow, that guy was a great guy to meet. Or I shouldn't say that. There's lots of great people that we met, but he was a memorable one, great person, and super excited to get it. So we've had lots of those with Bring a Trailer, is just people getting something that they absolutely coveted, and whatever the price was, the price was. And, we always say to people, car arrives, they're not happy, put it back in the truck, send me my shipping bill. I already own the car. So if I own my same car, I'm not making anybody take a car they're not happy with. And, we have said that in the comments plenty of times and I do believe now we're a trusted seller on Bring a Trailer, and, we can garner results that are a little higher than some others. But I do think the walk around videos, the driving videos, the complete underside being cleaned to perfection, the details, the photography, the servicing, all that pays off in spades. So, your question was, what advice would you give sellers? I would say, go the distance, present it properly, get proper photography, and service your car properly, and make sure the car checks the boxes. So
we've seen Bring a Trailer kind of revolutionize the way that sales work. And you mentioned the marketing elements of that, the photos, the descriptions, then of course having to survive the wild, wild west in the comment section down there. But do you think there's another evolution on the horizon for this? Like, what do you think the next step is for buying and selling these types of cars?
If I knew that, I'd be the next Randy Nunenberg that's creating Bring a Trailer. I'd be rich and not a used car salesman. So I don't know. I don't know how it evolves from here. Certainly the digital auction space is something that there's plenty of people trying to compete with Bring a Trailer. I just think it's an uphill battle for anybody else trying to compete. And we get the phone calls from all the new auction platforms saying, hey, come list with us. We'll list your cars right away. And, on and on and on. They have these mechanisms to try and entice you. But I think I'm okay to say it, but Bring a Trailer's got 1 million users. They have 500,000 registered bidders. They did, $1.3 billion in business and 20,000 transactions last year. I don't know how you go up against that without having to give something back. And when they're only charging $99 to sell, $5,000 as a max to buy, and our mean average of selling price, every car is $5,000. I don't know what you can do better than them. They have the biggest audience. And so I would say they've got their foothold on the online auction space, because I don't know how much easier it gets than buying a car on your couch during COVID, because that was a busy time for us.
Okay, Tim, you're a very experienced guy who's out in different facets of this industry all the time doing different stuff. So why don't you give us one car to buy, one car to sell, and one car to hold in today's marketplace?
Unequivocally, the buy of all cars right now, in my opinion, that's going to go on a run, the Lexus LFA. I think that's one of the most undervalued cars. And play this back 3 years from now, they will double in value. I think it's an incredible car. It's so meaningful to, Toyota and Lexus in the Japanese market. I think from a performance standpoint, and production numbers as a whole, it's one of the best buys out there. If I could buy 10 today, I'd buy all 10 and tuck them away, because they are going to double.
Yeah, they're pretty spectacular cars. And if you think about it, I think they're going to kind of follow the same trajectory as like maybe a Carrera GT would or something along those lines anyway. And we've seen what those cars have done in the last couple of years. So somebody who's going to go out and try and track one of those down right now, what do you think a good number that they should be targeting to pay for one of those is?
So we've sold 3 LFAs in the last month and a half, between 750 and 950,000. And the variance in value was color. The one that sold for 950,000 was a one-off color. There's only one, and incredible mileage, one owner car, and checked every single box. So, there's quite a few LFAs that are one-offs. And I think if you can get one of those, just, put the rule book away, pay way too much. It will pay off in time.
So what are we going to sell?
Well, I just sold my dad's 54 Cadillac. So I think if it's made in America and it's a 50s car, we're running out of buyers for those cars. We just sold a 57 Barretts, and it's it seems to be that sort of era is I don't want to say dying off because it sounds so morose, but we're not building new buyers for those cars. So I'm selling my 50s Cadillacs.
And then what are we going to hold?
Well, I'm biased. 300 SL. Roadster or Gullwing, I'm holding.
So what is your preference? Do you prefer the Gullwing over the Roadster, or do you have kind of one way or the other? I've been pretty vocal about my preference on this show in the past, but you're the guy for these, so I figured we might as well ask and sneak that in.
So if I'm driving it, I'm driving a Roadster. If I'm looking at it, I'm looking at a Gullwing. So they serve two different purposes, but I've been on the 101, coming out of Santa Ynez in a Gullwing at 105 degrees in traffic, trapped, and no windows going down. So there's certainly a time and a place for a Gullwing, but it's not in Phoenix at this time of year. So, but I have an affection for both, but very differently. Like having a favorite kid. I have two boys. I don't like either of them different or more, but I definitely like them differently. So
it's a good, safe answer for sure. So any final thoughts?
I think the collector car market is strong as I've ever seen it, but I would say my advice to anybody, buy the best, pay the most. It'll pay off every single time. And, at this time right now, we're seeing a big change in value in what we call the in-betweeners. We saw every 993 Porsche go through the roof. It didn't matter if it had 50,000 miles or 150,000 miles, it doubled in value. And now we're seeing, there's a big change between that 993 turbo with 10,000 miles and that 993 turbo with 70,000 miles. So, I would encourage people buy the better example. It's going to pay off over time. There's definitely a delta between cream of the crop rising to the top.
So where can people go to learn more?
Our website at silveraerocars.com is a great place, but more actively, Instagram. The moment we buy a car, it almost ends up on Instagram. And I can't tell you how many cars sell the same day they're posted on Instagram. So that's the place to watch us, which is Silver Arrow Cars Ltd on Instagram.
Good stuff indeed. And your Instagram is definitely a good follow, as well as your website has got a lot of content, a lot of great pictures. You guys do a great job with photography, so it's certainly worth a visit. I would like to thank Tim Quocksister for joining us today. To learn more about anything that we discussed here, be sure to pick up the latest issue of Sports Car Market Magazine by visiting the link in the video description down below. As a reminder, if you enjoyed this content, please take a moment to like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay on top of future episodes. I'm Darren Roberge, and thank you for joining us on the Buy, Sell, Hold Spotlight.